Picture this. An AI makes a huge decision about your life. A loan application, a medical scan, maybe even a police investigation. And then it gets it wrong. Catastrophically wrong. So how do you figure out what happened? How do you peek inside that digital brain to see where the error was made? Well, that's the exact question regulators in the EU are wrestling with, and their answer is buried deep inside the new AI Act. So let's crack open that black box and see what's inside.
Right. So this is the core of the problem, isn't it? When an AI that can literally affect our health, our safety, or our basic rights messes up, we can't just throw up our hands and say, oh, well, the computer said so. We absolutely need a way to do a kind of digital forensic analysis to trace the exact steps that led to that failure. And look, this isn't just about fixing a technical glitch. This is about real accountability.
Now, it's important to know the EU isn't trying to regulate every single AI out there. Not at all. Their focus is laser sharp on what they call high-risk AI systems. These are the heavy hitters, the algorithms running in really critical sectors where a mistake isn't just an oopsie, it can have massive consequences for real people. That's the whole reason these rules have to be so tough. And the EU's big answer to this whole accountability puzzle? It's all packed into one specific, super important part of the AI Act, Article 12. You can think of this as the rule that basically says every high-risk AI has to keep a detailed diary, a logbook of everything it does. Honestly, the easiest way to wrap your head around Article 12 is to think of it like a mandatory black box for AI. It's just like the flight data recorder on an airplane. The whole point is that it automatically records all the key events. That way, if the AI crashes, investigators have a clear, untouchable record they can go back to and figure out exactly what went wrong and why.
So, and this is crucial, this isn't just about logging data for the sake of it. No way. The final text of the AI Act gives this black box 3 very specific jobs. First, it's got to be an early warning system, spotting risks before they turn into full-blown disasters. Second, it's there to help companies see how their AI is actually doing out in the wild, not just in some sterile lab. And third, it allows for way closer supervision of the most sensitive systems, the ones we really need to keep a close eye on.
And check this out, because it really shows you how specific the law gets. When we're talking about super sensitive tech like remote biometric ID, things like facial recognition in public, the rules get even tighter. The black box has to record the exact start and end time, what database it checked against, the specific piece of data that triggered a match, and, this is so important, which human beings actually checked and verified the results. It's all about creating a completely undeniable audit trail. But, a rule this big and this important doesn't just appear out of thin air. Getting to this final version was a massive undertaking. It was forged over 3 long years of pretty intense debates, back-and-forth negotiations, and a whole lot of compromise. So let's take a look at how this critical rule actually came to be. This timeline really tells the story of its evolution. It all kicked off back in 2021 with a pretty simple idea, automatic logging. But pretty fast, the conversation got more complicated. By 2022, they were deep in the weeds of technical feasibility, and really importantly, they expanded the logging from just when the AI is on to its entire lifetime. Then, in 2023, a whole new fight began, before everyone finally shook hands on the final text in 2024. And this table here, it just lays out the biggest changes perfectly. Take a look at technical feasibility. The language got softer, moving from a strict, designed and developed with, to a much more practical, technically allow. That might sound small, but it was a huge deal, especially for AI built into things like offline machinery. And as we saw, the duration went from just the operational phase to the entire lifetime. And finally, the purpose got way more specific, from a kind of vague idea of traceability to those 3 concrete goals we just talked about. Okay, so what was that big fight in 2023 all about? Well, this was probably the single biggest debate in the entire history of Article 12, and it all came down to one word: sustainability. So you basically had 2 sides in a standoff. On one side, you had the European Parliament. They were pushing really hard to make companies log the environmental impact of their AI, how much energy it's using, what resources it's consuming. But on the other side, the Council, which represents all the member states, they slammed the brakes. They were worried it just wasn't technically possible yet, that it would cost a fortune, and that it might put European tech companies at a disadvantage. And in the end, the Council won the argument. This quote from our source material really sums it up. The final version of the AI Act has no sustainable logging requirement. For a lot of advocates, this was a huge disappointment.
a real missed opportunity to hold AI accountable for its environmental footprint. Okay, so we've been deep in the weeds of just one article here. You might be thinking, why does this one super technical rule matter so much in the grand scheme of things? Well, let's zoom out and connect it to the bigger picture.
Well, for one thing, look at this number. That's the potential fine for not following the rules, up to 35 million euros, or 7% of a company's global turnover. Yeah, that's the kind of number that gets everyone's attention. It shows you the EU is not messing around. These aren't suggestions. They're putting serious financial teeth behind these rules to make sure companies comply.
And another really important thing is that Article 12 isn't some lonely rule off on its own. It's part of this huge interconnected web of regulations. The data in these AI logs, it has to be handled according to GDPR privacy rules, which creates this delicate balance between needing a detailed record and protecting people's data. These logs are also vital for cybersecurity, for spotting threats, and they're essential for transparency under other laws, like the Digital Services Act. It's all connected. So there you have it. The EU has built the black box. They've mandated this digital trail for the most powerful AI systems out there to make sure that when things go sideways, we have a fighting chance to find out why. But the big question, the one we're all left with, is this. Is a trail of data really going to be enough to build our trust in the automated systems that are shaping more and more of our world? That, my friends, remains to be seen.